The largest natural disaster in Hawaii's history. This is a special Sky News programme, Hawaii Inferno. In their cars, in their homes, fleeing devastating wildfires, at least 55 people have died. 1,000 people are still missing. One mayor says his town resembles a war zone. Now, questions over why the island's emergency warning system didn't sound the alarm. As experts blame hurricane winds and extremely dry weather, the deadly combination continuing to fuel the fires. Hello, I'm Jonathan Samuels. The idyllic holiday hotspot famed for white sandy beaches and right now scenes out of an apocalypse. Hawaii, specifically the island of Maui, is in the midst of a natural disaster. Wildfires have burnt neighbourhoods to the ground, scorching acre upon acre of land. At least 55 people have died and 1,000 are unaccounted for. In this special programme, we'll look at how the fires took hold and hear from people on the island. Despite a mammoth rescue effort, Hawaii's Inferno shows no sign of letting up.
I'm just so grateful to be alive so I can continue to help people.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor.
This was a home.
All the cars with full gas tanks that reached the fire, they were exploded.
Lahaina on the island of Maui. An area of natural beauty. $1 million mansions, designer shops, and some of Hawaii's most luxurious harbourside restaurants and hotels.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor. Oh my goodness, look at all these houses.
Lahaina, in the local dialect, translates as cruel sun. Today they are cursing the cruel flames. Our correspondent saw for herself the horrors the wildfires inflicted here in just a matter of hours.
This is the heart of Lahaina's downtown. Hotels, restaurants, businesses, completely obliterated. You can see in the distance some of the wreckage still smouldering a couple of days after these wildfires hit, and the smell of the smoke hangs heavy in the air. This here is the harbour area of Lahaina, and this is where many people came to try and escape the full force of the flames.
The flames arrived with terrifying speed. This area was packed with tourists and diners. The flames now devour their pick of the best shops and restaurants. The wildfires have been fanned by a recent hurricane, making them even more ferocious.
Cars exploding. Oh.
Dozens are dead, and residents are warned to expect more bodies to be found. The stories of those who survived are simply remarkable. With just moments left to act, Idris and Damon jumped into the ocean and clung to a jetty for hours to stay alive.
We keep hearing explosions. We were hearing screams out of a horror movie. You know, I called the cops again. They couldn't come. The third time I called them, they said, you have to go in the water. And I said, you want us to jump in the hurricane? It's black, you know. The ocean was pulling us at the same time. We were trying to had debris falling on us. We're trying to get wet and not burn. I just prayed and I said, God, please not today. I didn't know what to say. This is it.
Most of this town has been destroyed. Wisps of smoke and ash, pretty much all that's left of homes and businesses.
Had choke smoke, and I couldn't tell where I was sometimes, and sometimes I could. You know, it's a short road, front street. If you guys walk down the street, you see it's completely burnt. And I feel like we're not getting the help we need, you know? Oh my God.
Looking up the hillside, all the homes are gone, all the buildings are gutted. It looks like a war zone, like from just total destruction.
The final curtain coming down on historic buildings like the community's Pioneer Theatre and Inn, dating back to 1901.
It was devastating. It felt like a war zone, and it was still fresh. I could see trees burning, I could feel the smoke, I could feel the heat, and it was basically like another pandemic. To explain it, it was a ghost town, very apocalyptic, and as our mobile unit was driving through, we started seeing some people come out of the woodworks, like survivors.
Only a few days ago, this harbour was buzzing with fishing trips, sightseeing tours and party boats. Tourists and holidaymakers are evacuating Hawaii, incredulous at what has happened in such a short space of time.
We had just driven through 2 days earlier, and it was beautiful and bustling, and then coming back on the way back and seeing just absolute devastation. It was really heartbreaking.
When we came on the charter bus to come here, they took us right through Lahaina, and we were able to see up close and firsthand the devastation and how everything we saw the day before was so lush and beautiful is just completely gone now.
At the airport, holidaymakers, still in shock, wait for their chance to fly home.
We were pretty isolated, kind of had no idea what was going on because we had, no cell service, no TV, no internet. All we could see was sort of the smoke in the horizon. That kind of burned all night until yesterday morning. And then yesterday, the alarms kind of blared at the hotel, telling us to evacuate.
It was scary seeing, driving through, you couldn't see any structures of the buildings were gone, looked like a bomb went off. All the cars with full gas tanks that reached the fire, they were exploded.
For those who had no choice but to stay, the reality of what has gone on here is impossible to comprehend. The community has set up places to help those who've lost everything. This high school has become a relief centre for those now homeless. Candy escaped on her moped, grieving for those who couldn't get away.
All I want to do is help people. I'm just so grateful to be alive.
People are found in houses in a huddle, holding each other because the fire surrounded their homes before they could even get out. There was nowhere to go. And these are beautiful homes that are very old and they're made of wood. Those went up like a matchstick. Nobody had warning.
Christina was on holiday. Her hotel was evacuated and she has spent 2 nights at the shelter.
The Red Cross is here. The people are so kind. We have food, we have water, and a place to shower, and people who love us. We
must feel lucky.
We feel very lucky, very blessed.
Some essentials may be in short supply, but there's an excess of volunteers willing to help where they can.
They lost everything. Everybody lost everything. We don't know how we feel. I don't know how you guys supposed to feel.
I'm a little worried because I have a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old. I have dogs.
The wildfires don't pause after dark, and neither do the fire crews. More than a dozen have lost their own homes in this disaster.
This was a home. There's their car.
Once daylight comes, the helicopter crews can get back to work, eyeing up the enemy below, fighting a battle on the ground from the air. Hawaii is no stranger to wildfires, but never on this scale. The president has heard the pleas for help.
We have just approved a major disaster declaration for Hawaii, which will get aid into the hands of the people desperately needing help now. They've lost, anyone who's lost a loved one whose home has been damaged or destroyed is going to get help immediately.
All the bodies recovered so far were found outside, but the flames crept up so many driveways, reaching so many front doors. The miserable truth is more remains will be recovered as rescue teams search inside homes and vehicles, people trapped, unable to outrun the fire.
Right now our focus is on finding any missing persons. We want to reunite families. We want to give people information, whether they're family members at one of our shelters or whether they are among those that have perished. We need to get that information to our citizens.
A devastating collision of factors is being blamed.
Even just the materials that all of these places are built with, they're all at high risk of wildfire, and then they're surrounded by lands that have gone out of agriculture and are now just standing fallow and unmanaged. And so when you add in, hurricane force winds or any extra little variable to make it even more severe, we were all kind of waiting for the day that something like this would happen.
The majority of wildfires are now contained, but the horror of what happened here will last for years. The Inferno chased people into the ocean, terrified drivers trying to flee, stole power and means of communication. Hawaii, a place of smiles and sunshine, now terribly scarred. Your heart goes out to everyone affected, doesn't it? And as you saw there, rescue operations still very much ongoing, but so too is the effort to help those who have been left without a home. Sky's US correspondent Martha Kellner joins me now. She's in an aid shelter in Wailuku. Martha, you've been in Hawaii now for some time. You must have heard some desperately sad stories. How many people are taking shelter where you are?
That's right, it is a disaster zone. There's no two ways about it. I'm currently at the War Memorial Gymnasium. This is one of 6 emergency evacuation centres across Maui. And I've been inside here and there are hundreds of camp beds against the bleachers. People of all ages, the young, the old, even cats, dogs. I've seen a bird in a cage, and people receiving food, water, whatever they need really here. Many people have lost everything. I'm joined by Shane Dudoir, and he works for Maui County and is in charge of the relief efforts on this island. Shane, what is the sense, the scale of the disaster here?
It's something that we've never seen before. This is going to go down in history as one of the worst disasters ever in Hawaii. I mean, we've lost so much, and getting through this is going to be rough, and we're going to do our best to help our community and get through this.
And there are hundreds of people in this shelter alone, thousands of local people evacuated across Maui. What does the relief effort look like? What do these people need?
We have a special community here on Maui and in Hawaii, and we are receiving donations from all over the world. I don't think we can ever say we're never going to turn anybody away, but if anybody's got anything, they can come down and drop it off here, and we can distribute it as we see fit. We're still having a hard time getting into Lahaina. It's still a battle zone there. I mean, it's not pretty. Well, we want to get to our people as soon as we can. I think in the next couple of days we're going to be able to do that.
How difficult has it been for you personally to see this beautiful island scarred by these wildfires?
It's more than just a beautiful island, it's beautiful people. My best friends have lost houses, guys we still don't know where, friends, family. I mean, we're a very tight-knit community. We love and respect everyone around here, and it's tough to see people go through this. This is going to be a long, hard-fought battle to get through this.
I can tell it's taken an emotional toll on you.
It is. It hurts. It hurts really bad. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shane. What do you think will happen over the next days and weeks? When will these people be able to return to their homes? Is there a timeline for that?
That is unknown right now. They're just trying to clear out the power lines. Our Public Works Department is going to go in and clear the roads, and then we'll be able to get in there, assess the damage, and hopefully get these guys back to their homes, if they still have one, as soon as possible.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Shane. Very busy time for the people here helping with relief efforts. As Shane was saying, access into Lahaina has been difficult so far. Authorities say they are preparing to open the main road back into that worst affected town, allowing residents to return. But with that, there was a warning from the state's governor, Josh Green. He said that when people go back, they will see destruction like they have not ever seen in their lives. Everyone, please brace themselves. And that certainly chimes with what I saw from the air over Lahaina yesterday. Charred land as far as you can see, home upon home, street upon street, obliterated. Another grim day in store for Maui as the search through that charred wreckage continues.
Yeah, you can understand why people need to be prepared. Martha and indeed Shane, thank you both very much. You could really hear the stress, the shock and the sadness, couldn't you, in Shane's voice there? So the big question is, how did these unprecedented wildfires start, and could Maui ever recover from such devastation? Our international correspondent Alex Rossi has been taking a look.
They've been described by officials as the worst natural disaster in the state's history. Fueled by a dry summer and strong winds from a passing hurricane, the fire started on Tuesday. Several thousand residents raced to escape homes on Maui as a blaze swept across the island. The location worst hit by the fast-spreading wildfires has been the town of Lahaina. Now, to give you an idea of how much has been lost, we've some satellite images of the town from September last year. As you can see, there are plenty of homes and businesses running along the coast. And in pictures taken just on Wednesday, the flames have destroyed many of the buildings. Lahaina is historically important, dating back to the 1700s, and was once the capital of Hawaii. Thousands have been made homeless, and as many as 1,000 buildings destroyed, but these fires haven't come from nowhere. According to US government data, 16% of Maui County is currently in a state of severe drought, and last year, the majority of the island was in severe drought for 8 months. And researchers at the University of Hawaii have been looking at how many acres of land have been burnt throughout the last century. They say, on average, 5,000 acres were burnt each year between 1904 and the 1980s. Since then, the fires have increased roughly fourfold. In 2016, more than 20,000 acres were burnt. In 2018, more than 30,000, and in 2021, more than 40,000. We don't know yet the exact cause of these wildfires, but with Hurricane Dora moving away, the winds fanning the flames will drop, and it means the worst of the danger has hopefully now passed. But major rescue operations and investigations will continue for some time.
Alex Rossi reporting there. Well, it's still fairly early in the morning in Hawaii. Let's take you to another area affected. Kahului is where NBC's Steve Patterson is for us. Steve, there was a very grim warning not so long ago that the number of dead is expected to rise as rescue teams go inside buildings that so far they've not been able to touch.
Yeah, there is that grim reality. You know, the governor, the mayor has said that they have not been able to go in the interior. So we have the death toll now at 55, but almost certainly that number may rise even exponentially over the next 24, 48, 72 hours. It is going to be a very heartbreaking amount of time, stretch of time. And then you factor in that the governor, yes, has said that that road may open soon, allowing people to go back to their homes. But I say go back to their homes, and what they're going to find many times, as we've seen with the images and we've heard from these officials, is that there is not a whole lot left there. There is devastation as far as the eye can see. I myself am about 10 minutes from where you had that last correspondent in Wailuku, about a 10-minute drive. This shelter, one of the 6 shelters set up along the island, this shelter almost at capacity as well. We've seen people flowing in and out of here all morning long. The great thing about Hawaii and the aloha spirit is that we've seen so many people bringing supplies, blankets, food, water, fuel. A woman just walked up to us with a gas can trying to give more fuel and more relief to the folks here. I will say, though, one of the toughest things, one of the biggest needs on this island are people with special needs, with special medications that left with just the clothes on their back, escaping the heat of that flame, a wall of flames trying to escape that Lahaina town, and now need access to that medication. It's been one of the biggest challenges, but so too has the fact that still 10,000 people are without power on this island, without access to internet, without a way to communicate that they're okay, that they're in a safe location. And so the growing list of missing has been really expanding over the past 48 hours or so. We don't have a solid number on how many that is, but it is so many that certainly they will be counted among the dead as well. So a grim reality facing this community, but they are really coming together to try to get through this. We're also speaking to tourists who had to as well jump out as quickly as possible, spending the night at shelters like this and trying to get off the island, joining the 15,000 people that left last night. That number expected to rise as well today. Back to you.
Yeah, grim indeed, Steve. So stressful for people who want to see what's left of their homes, if anything. Thank you very much indeed for that update. You're watching a Sky News special programme. Coming up, we're going to hear from those who fled the fires on the island of Maui and are now seeking refuge.
We know that children have missed out on some swimming lessons over the last couple of years during lockdown, but also we know that more and more people are going to our beaches every year, which will account to more and more rescues naturally. And what our Swim Safe programme does is it's a really fantastic way to get those, that age group between 7 and 14 into the water, teaching them how the currents work, how the waves move, because it's a very different environment to a swimming pool, and really teaching them those life-saving skills near the beach. One of the most important things that we teach the young people when they're in the water is the float to live technique. So that's where you lay on your back, almost like a starfish, arms and legs nice and wide. Tilt your head back so your ears are submerged. Your legs can drop, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to be completely laid on the surface of the water. And this is a proven technique to save lives. So a swimming pool is a controlled environment. The temperature is controlled. The way that the water moves in a swimming pool is controlled. That's the complete opposite to open water. There's absolutely no controlling over the water. It's constantly moving in different ways. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to teach those young people how it works, how the tides work, how the currents work, and getting them to experience that within the water, within a setting that is obviously well looked after by the lifeguards and by the trainers, because there's nothing quite like getting them in the water and practicing. We know that the water is constantly moving in different ways. It's very difficult to spot with the naked eye if there's something like a riptide. So it's really important to get them in the water.
I'm Inzamam Rashid and I'm Sky's North of England correspondent, telling stories from this culturally rich region I call home.
Hello and welcome back to this special programme on the Hawaii Inferno. Wildfires raging on the island of Maui in Hawaii have now claimed the lives of at least 55 people. Hundreds more remain missing, and while there are major concerns over those yet to be found, there are also growing questions about why some emergency sirens weren't triggered. Well, I'm joined now by Adam Eichholz, a Lahaina resident. He's been there for 15 years. Adam, Good to see you. And first of all, I'm so sorry about what you and so many of your fellow neighbours and islanders have been through over the last few days. Why don't we start by hearing your story?
Well, I had a unique perspective because we could see the beginning of the fire from my porch. And we were watching it, and it was very small, and it was put out, and it got bigger. And then me and my roommates at the time were like, hey, if it crosses the bypass, then we gotta run. But there was also a gas station on the corner. If it starts going that way, we gotta run. And the fire department was very focused on that gas station. And we just kept on waiting, and we kind of almost waited too long because it went from small to just this massive thing of black smoke. You could see the cell phone towers just waving back and forth. Then the explosions started happening. I don't know if it was propane tanks or cars, but it was shaking our house in particular. And then once we saw the fire starting to hop over the bypass, we all packed one backpack thinking we'd go to a friend's house about a mile away and spend the night. Worst comes to worst, we would go to Lahaina Civic Center and spend the night and be back, and everything was gonna be normal again. We had no idea that the massive wave of fire was just gonna go through the entire neighborhood. And with that neighborhood, it's all residential houses, generational houses with grandparents, parents, kids, grandkids, and they're all next to each other. So if one goes up, they all go up. So once we made it to a friend's house, we were told right away you gotta go. So my friend has kids, we threw them in the car, and we went to the Civic Center. 2 hours later, like, no, you have to leave, like flee north and you have to leave now. So we ended up spending the night in a grocery store parking lot with a towel that my friend had in the back of the car, sleeping on the grass.
Adam, you seem remarkably
That's my
composed.
evacuation story.
Yeah, I'm just going to say you seem remarkably composed when you tell us what's happened. What's the situation now then? Have you lost everything?
I assume everything's gone. I know my workplace is gone completely. Me and all my friends, roommates, everybody, we work on Front Street. That's where we make our money to survive here, and it is gone. So even if there is a house that's still standing, we won't find work for a very long time. And that's a very concerning thing, but not even work, but everything's gone. The 15 years that I've lived here, everything that my instruments, my pictures, because my travels before we had digital cameras, we had disposable cameras. All those pictures are gone. And that's one of the hardest things to know, that those memories are just gonna be gone. My friends who were born and raised here, like their childhood, like spots where they grew up, they're gone. The banyan tree is gone. Like
yeah, that ancient tree
it's
that
hard
is
to see.
such a big symbol of where you live. So what are you doing now for food and for supplies, and where are you sleeping?
I'm at the War Memorial Shelter. They bust us in at night. I think they did it at night so we wouldn't see what was going on in Lahaina in particular, just for people's sanity. But once we got here, we have a thing in Hawaii called Ohana, which is family. The majority of people here are volunteers. And a lot of them I know and work with that live on this side, but work on Front Street because that's where you can make more money. And this area is a little easier to live in. So a lot of the volunteers I'll see at 11 p.m. and they're still here at 11 a.m. and helping. A lot are teenagers that are volunteering. A lot are even younger than that. And it's really, really are taking care of us. I just hope it continues because it's still the beginning stages. And I'm scared to see what's gonna happen a month from now when we still don't have a place to stay or food that we know that's coming in.
Yeah, so much
they talk
to
about
worry
hotels.
about.
We really
Adam.
don't know what the next step is.
Of course, you can't predict what's going to happen next. Something else that has been a concern is the lack of warning. We know that there are plenty of emergency sirens on Hawaii. Is that something you're concerned about? Something you're angry about? Did you get any inkling that this was around the corner?
Oh, no. We never thought it was going to be so big. We never thought it was going to affect us, really. Like, all I did was pack a bag with 3 sets of clothes and a phone charger, thinking I'd be back the next morning. No problem, no issue. I don't take medication, but I probably wouldn't have even taken it because I thought for sure I'd be back the next morning. But they test the sirens the first business day of every month. there were no sirens at all. Like, my friends that I've talked to who live on Front Street that had to jump in the water, they thought the smoke was just from the mountain. They had no idea the fire was coming towards them. And then one friend told me that they hopped in their car and their tires blew out from the heat right away, and they just drove away on flat tires. And I talked to several friends who had to jump in the water and wait 6 hours for the Coast Guard, and some even made it back to shore because they didn't think Coast Guard was coming, and the road, just being on the road, melted their sandals, and they got second-degree burns on their feet. But the warning wasn't there, but nobody thought the wind was going to be that strong. But even watching the beginning of the fire, we had to sit down to watch it, because if you stood up, the wind would blow you over. Like, the gusts were just incredibly strong. You see palm trees almost hitting the ground as they bend over. And you see a lot of heavy wind here during this time of year from hurricanes, but you never see something like that. And the hurricane wasn't that close to us, so it wasn't even an idea that something like this was gonna happen. I worked the night before it happened and rode my bicycle home. It was windy, but I didn't think that the next night I'd be sleeping in a parking lot.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And Adam, to those of us who've not been to Hawaii, who don't live anywhere near Hawaii, in our minds it's a place of holidays and sunshine and happiness. Do you think it's going to be a long time before those days, those images return?
Yes, I do. It's not going to be easy to rebuild Front Street, but we are a strong people, and we will rebuild it. But those buildings are from the early 1900s. That's what made it special. It was an old surf town, whaling town. It was so historic, and all that is gone. Like, it's a town that we all loved, and our neighbors we all loved. And with people who even fled like north of the city in a place called Napili or Kahana, they don't have cell phone service. They don't have, when we left, they didn't have running water or electricity. So we don't know who is alive and who's not alive. Like, all we can look on is social media to see if anybody's checked in, or like word of mouth. Like, the shelter now, I'm told, has around 400 people. And once you're in Lahaina, you know almost everybody. And I try to look for my friends, and I don't see very many of them. And that's scary. I don't know if they're camping on the side of the road or other shelters, or really what's going on, because you just can't pick up your phone and call them, because their cell phone's either dead or they don't have service. It took me to make it to this shelter from Lahaina until I could even call my parents. It took 24 hours to just let them know that I'm alive.
So hard being cut off, isn't it, and not being able to get the answers that you desperately need. Adam, it's really good of you to speak to us, and of course you, your family, your friends have our very best wishes, and thank you for your time. All the best. Really difficult, isn't it, what he was saying there about not having that communication, not knowing whether your friends are still alive. We have been told that more deaths are expected as rescue teams go inside buildings for the first time. Well, as some of the fires remain out of control, thousands continue to evacuate Hawaii. And as we've been hearing, people are becoming increasingly worried about missing loved ones. It is the toughest of situations, but as we've heard, for many on the islands, there is still hope, an island community pulling together. Thank you very much for watching.